So Maria, thank you so much for agreeing to join up here and to share your thoughts about, HSBC, the Orion journey, DLT, digital assets, what it means for your firm. First and foremost, you're a digital asset specialist. You work in HSBC Securities Services. You're obviously in the team with Hashir that I see here, who's really, I think you guys are one of the, I would say for Luxembourg, I think something of almost like a beacon of light, that you guys really drive the digital transformation in Luxembourg, and I think it gave some very good ideas as to what we can do in the fixed income, in the tokenized fund space, etc. But so very glad to have you. I think I'd like to start off by asking you a first question, which would be, so what in your view has driven HSBC to embark on this digital assets journey? Is it the reality to say, okay, well, we have this new wave of fintech coming in, they might disrupt us, so we should disrupt ourselves first, or what's the vision here? A bit of a provocative question.
Yeah. There's a few things to talk about there, but thanks again, Philippe, for inviting us today to speak more about our journey, and I'm really going to be speaking more about our partnership, right? So I want to thank A&O, Philippe in particular, because of the way that we had worked and established our first tokenization platform, HSBC Orion, which was in Luxembourg. And so A&O had been very instrumental in helping us shape the way we design the platform in Luxembourg. So I think HSBC as a security service provider, and I speak within the context of our business, it's really more around, we've been servicing our clients with over 10 trillion of assets, and we do that for different services within the security services space. And so it's obviously imperative that we also look after them in terms of what can we do on the digital asset space. So we are also a large book building firm. We are a huge underwriting firm, and we have seen how issuers have had the difficulty, I would say, in terms of the book building exercise. So looking at how you can utilize the distributed ledger technology to make sure that you can have that efficiency on chain by transforming or creating a digital native bond program, in fact. So all of the information now on our bond program are actually now in digital native form or on a smart contract. And so I think that in itself has led us into working alongside with Luxembourg, and actually we use Luxembourg as a first, I would say, country or jurisdiction because of the right framework within the regulatory space.
As a test, so
yes, and I think and you've recently actually had a few blockchain law. The recent one is in December 2024. You really, or at least Luxembourg, provided a lot of clarity when it comes to digital assets, when it comes to the servicing of assets, so settlement and custody as well, and that in itself had led us into ensuring that we first launch our tokenization platform in Luxembourg. So there you go.
No, but I think, because honestly, I remember when we first, let's say, had the conversation with the HSBC team, it was also picking the right jurisdiction. So almost, I wouldn't say forum shopping, but assessing sort of where Luxembourg fits in on the global toolbox, and what we can offer. But you guys are obviously also in Hong Kong, APAC. So what would you say is the big difference between the success that you've had in APAC? Because obviously we know that the bonds that were issued through Orion in APAC have a lot more liquidity than in Lux, for example. So I know that CMU might be part of the answer. Is this, in your view, the main thing that we're lacking in Europe, the bridge with an established CSD?
Yep. So I want to qualify that when we first started that journey, it was in 2023. And really, I think it formed the basis of how we would develop our platform, right? So at that point, the concept, or at least the design of how we look at the issuance platform, was based on us providing a semi-quasi-CSD role in Luxembourg.
Correct.
And yes. So in that aspect, you will need, it's a public permission and blockchain that we utilize, although we expose the information through a public blockchain, Ethereum, at that time. However, where we lack the liquidity, I'd say, is because you need participants to be on-chain.
Correct.
And so what that meant is that not everyone is on the same journey in your DLT transformation, and so not everyone could get connected on-chain. And so you will need the support of your custodians to be able to be on-chain to facilitate that liquidity for the bonds or the fixed income that were launched digitally native in the platform. So I think that is the difference, because how we had worked now 2 years after with HSBC Orion in Hong Kong is to actually partner with the CSD, the CMU OmniClear, to facilitate the investor access. So today what happens is that CMU today has its own membership. So there are 200 over members of the CMU, where there's custodians, there's ICSDs like Clearstream and Euroclear, which are already connected because they're members of the CMU. And so HSBC today provides that platform to the CMU, and the CMU actually operates it. So in that sense, then you have your investors looking into accessing digital native bonds, making it easy for them, because then they don't need to have a DLT connection. They don't need to sign up on the platform.
You're facilitating it for them.
Correct. Yes. So happy to report we're kind of making it more repeatable. So if you've seen our announcement 2 days ago, the third tranche of the HKMA digital native green bond has been priced. And so again, it's keeping it easier for issuers as well as for investors to get access to the digital bonds.
Yeah, but I think it is a bit counterintuitive, right? Because essentially now you're providing the issuance platform for the CSDs, who traditionally it was sort of their role almost to embark on or to play the notary function in order to do the takedown. So that is, for me, I think, very interesting. But essentially, I think you took the starting run, by telling the CSDs, hey, you could also issue with HSBC Orion. But obviously, I know that in Europe, this is something that we really have to work on to make sure that we have connectivity and the right bridges to actually embark on that.
Yep, and I think the recent regulations actually will help to facilitate that, right, with the changes in the blockchain 4 law.
Yeah. So for the blockchain law 4, for those of you who don't know, it's actually basically a change whereby, for example, Orion would be able to facilitate the issuance, the transfer, but without actually being a custodian for the account keepers that are operating on the platform. So it's much leaner.
Yeah.
And I can say, having the chance to have actually worked on the law, we had Orion a lot on our mind when we were really proposing these changes, because we said, okay, how can we facilitate the Orion journey to get more bonds under AUM, and not only bonds, but also funds, investment fund units, to then be traded in book entry, so from securities account to another. So that brings me to my next question. We've seen the HSBC vision in the fixed income space, but what's going on for the investment funds?
So on the funds space as well, and I think you've seen our presence in Asia. I mean, we ourselves today have a huge presence in Luxembourg, where we're facilitating UCITS, and we support our clients globally from a fund servicing perspective. So that's a given, right? So we're facilitating that. But now when we look at how are asset managers thinking about creating a share class in tokenized form, and why, right? So let's start with the why. I think it's the new type of investors, so meaning new venues to distribute their funds. And so you need that if you're working with virtual asset service providers or digital exchanges, then that is a new avenue for new investors to participate.
For distribution.
For distribution. I think that's the very first use case, or I would say the most popular use case that now asset managers are thinking about, right? So, and so in Asia, you will see that you've seen a lot of announcements on tokenized retail fund, tokenized money market fund. You'll hear about our clients talk about tokenized ETFs as well, and that is very prevalent here in Singapore as well as in Hong Kong. And so so basically what we're trying to facilitate there is, because today we're using HSBC Orion mainly for fixed income, so we do have our own partnerships that will allow us to create that tokenized, minting and burning for our clients as well. Again, this is very much similar to a digital twin, so it's a representation of a unit into a on-chain, so a tokenized unit. But I'm sure that there are many other use cases, including a full on-chain ecosystem for funds. So.
And I can tell you that Luxembourg law can actually facilitate that. So it's really about us and you looking at a project, saying what do you want to achieve, and then we can obviously find a way. But I think earlier today we had in this chair, Tom from Coinbase, that shared the vision to actually have distribution on-chain for the investors that actually started looking at crypto, but didn't necessarily have a brokerage with established players. So I think the view is that HSBC Orion still has very much a role to play in this, to still act as the minting and burning engine, and then allowing the distribution to the unbrokered, essentially, so through these collaborations.
Yeah.
But I think the key word is collaboration with other venues, other infrastructures, and to not be in your own islands, right?
Yeah.
Do you share that vision?
Yeah. And again, as I've mentioned today, you'd like to think that Orion is a bit more closed loop, or it's private permission still. But again, the vision there is that you will have other partners or vendors that will allow us to create that interoperability with what we can do, what our core business in any case to do, which is fund admin, custody. So there's a lot more that we are thinking about as we service our clients into when they go into either tokenized funds, or when they go and access tokenized investments for themselves. So definitely, I think there's many roles that we can play there.
So last point that I want to ask you. So in your view, what is going to be the biggest story of 2026 for HSBC and for the market?
I'm not going to say for HSBC, but I think you've heard that today. It will likely be stable coins and AI, right? So that is definitely going to be such a big thing for 2026. And it is already, right? So it will just come into play definitely for actually digital money, right? So tokenized money, I think.
I was going to say tokenized deposit is what we looked at in the deals we worked on.
Yes. Yeah, so we ourselves have issued tokenized, or we are live with tokenized deposits in Hong Kong. We are live as well in Singapore, just announced this year, or actually this week. And we're looking at Europe as well. Luxembourg would be, I think, the next one, and then the UK.
So we're going to see a bond being settled in USDC?
Oh, USDC, I'm not sure. Definitely tokenized deposit for sure.
Okay, well, there you have it. Thank you all for joining, and I think this is the last panel of the day. So really, it's been fantastic, truly.
Thank you,
Philippe. So much.